Welcome to Exam Aid Instructor Training. Today's training was created by Sophie Dunn, a third-year business student at Laurier, and in 2018 she is entering her tenure as the Vice President of Educational Development at Laurier. Today's training will be in two parts. First, to ensure how instructors can create great sessions, and part two will consist of how to create a great exam aid from start to finish with the help of your whole chapter. If you have any questions after today's training, don't hesitate to reach out to Sophie at Laurier. So what makes a good exam aid session? If you've been to a session before, think about what made your experience great and what could be improved. Did you like the way the instructor presented the session with a clear and loud voice, or the fact that they reviewed content that was most relevant for your comprehension? When making a good quality session, remember who your audience is. Focus on what will help them to know the content. If you are new to SOS or have never been to a session before, you might be wondering what exactly an exam aid session is. Exam aid sessions are 2 to 3 hour peer-to-peer review sessions prior to a midterm or final exam. Each session is led by a student volunteer with remarkable communication skills who has previously excelled in that course. You, the instructor, leads the group over core concepts or theories in the designated course in a fun and interactive way, full of relevant examples and opportunities for questions. An exam aid session should review all concepts that were covered in a specific course. As the exam aid instructor, you will review each concept, illustrate with examples, and leave time for questions. Whenever possible and when appropriate, in accordance with your university's academic integrity policies, SOS volunteers may consult course resources such as syllabi. Now, let's get into how to make a high-quality exam aid session. Planning ahead of time and making deadlines is one of the most crucial things you can do. It may not sound too important, but trust us, your session will thank you. This is because it will ensure you can have everything done in advance, done a little bit at a time, rather than cramming for the session a week before it happens. With the help of your VP of Educational Development, at the beginning of the term, sit down with them and plan out a timeline that fits your needs and theirs. In advance, you'll need to plan the time and date of the session, the deadline to communicate the logistics to your marketing department, when your exam aid materials will be ready, when those materials will be reviewed for quality assurance, and when you will meet with your VP of ED to practice your session. And if you're choosing to do digital exam aids, you can create them and finish them months in advance when it works best for you. The next step is to stay on track and meet all deadlines you created at the beginning of the year. Your VP of ED will continuously check in on you throughout the term to ensure you're meeting these timelines. And although your VP will check up, it's still important for you to adhere to all the deadlines you set. But we understand. As students, sometimes school can consume you. If you find you can't reach a deadline for any reason, talk to your VP or SOS head office and let them know what's happening, and we'll help you figure out an alternate way to get you back on schedule. If you have any questions about being an exam aid instructor or what's expected of you, let your VP of Educational Development know right away. Great. Now you're on your way to giving a quality review session, from planning and staying on track. The next step is to practice in advance the session you're planning on giving the students. Practicing is extremely important to ensure the outcome you are hoping for. And make sure you practice early in advance to ensure that you know the material well before helping other students. And if you have any questions, you can get help from your colleagues at any time. It's also important to practice to make sure you are not cramming by relearning information a few days before the session. And last, your presentation skills are important to practice so that they're well suited for the students to be engaged who attend your session. A good goal is to have an instructor is to practice a little bit of your session every week. A few tips to practice your session are to videotape yourself, record your practice sessions, perhaps just the audio, or to practice in front of your friends, roommates, co-workers, whoever you think will listen. Next, it's important to have goals for the term. Aside from creating and executing your session, you should view your opportunity as an exam aid instructor to reach personal or professional goals. Try creating some short-term and long-term goals for the whole year. And this can be something that your Vice President of Educational Development can help you reach. Some examples can include becoming a better presenter, reaffirming your own knowledge of the course content, learning more about SOS, learning more about time management, networking, and reinforcing your own knowledge on how to organize a project from beginning to end. You may be thinking, great, now I know how to make a successful session, but what exactly is covered in this 3-hour session, and how do I make the content appealing? Number one is to make sure you're having fun. Get creative and make the session yours. The 3-hour session is comprised of reviewing the content and illustrating with examples. Be creative in those examples. When you're reviewing course content, make sure the amount of content you review reflects on the particular course you are teaching. For courses that are content heavy, make sure you're focusing on content, that this is what will appear on final exams or midterms. But for courses like math or science, where a lot of examples and application type questions appear, it is best to keep content to a minimum and focus on the content behind the questions themselves. Examples, especially higher exam-like questions that will help students prepare for their exams, are so important. Make sure you're doing in the session what reflects the course itself. Now, let's start with how to make the presentation itself engaging and creative. Of course, PowerPoint is a great method for any course since it is tangible and the students can review it again after the session. Chalkboards or whiteboards are also great alternate methods if there are a lot of examples or opportunities for you to get the students up off their chairs in the session and engage with them. If you use this method, make sure you are in a room where all the students are able to read what you're writing, or use a room with a projector. Remember to make the session interactive. Review the material in a different way from when learning in class. You can use common movies, ideas, topics, pop culture references to help students remember and understand concepts. Make it simple. If it's too complicated, students are going to disengage. And it's always great to illustrate with a funny story of your own experiences learning those concepts. Take-home packages are another great tool that you can make to help students at your exam-made session. What's comprised of this is really up to you as the instructor, but it does usually consist of practice questions. We ask that you try to do a take-home package, as this is another benefit for students who come to your session. SOS Head Office has provided instructors and all SOS volunteers engaging in sessions or exam-made products with a copyright tip sheet. This is relevant for all the content and material used and provided to students during or after an exam-made session, a digital exam-made session, and take-home packages. This does include examples. This copyright tip sheet has been created as a guide. However, the academic integrity policies at your university supersede this copyright tip sheet. The sheet is intended to help you, but you are responsible for following your university's policies. If you have any doubts or questions, always reach out to your educational development team or SOS head office before doing so. Remember, you were hired for a reason because we know you rock at tutoring. So go out there and show them that. Your VP is there to help you and answer any questions you may have. And your whole SOS community is here to help as well. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to head office.